Armenia,
going.
which portrays a monster in the door of Pentecost. The monster is either a dog-headed man, a cynocephalus, or else it is truly an unnameable monster, a kind of chaotic being with a dog face growing behind its head. This was the image that I chose as the first slide of my presentation. Now, the first time
Ladies and gentlemen, Mercury fucking black. There, I said it like you told me to.
All right, welcome everybody. I'm Mercury Black, and I'm really not sure what the fuck we're planning on doing here. I haven't been awake long and I'm grumpy, but Grizz stuck me online. And what the fuck is it we're even doing?
We're having a day at the office, but we're doing it with the camera turned on so people can watch. You are like the president of a channel that's on the YouTube, and you had this guy.
That's why I'm all tired and grumpy.
There's this guy Pageau who you've had on the channel, so I kind of like you keep telling me I'm the VP of the channel, so I'm like, we should keep an eye on people who have been on the channel. And this Pageau fella was on with this Vervaeke fella and the VanderKlay guy. And
okay, VanderKlay and Pageau are friends. They've been on the channel, but Vervaeke hasn't. What the fuck's his excuse? Just because we never invited him or reached out to him in any way? That's an excuse for him not to have been on here yet?
That's agape. So I thought, and I watched it, and a lot of it was really good. And I think
you even took the time to timestamp it for them, didn't you, in the comments?
Yes, my version of the timestamps is in the comments of Pageau's upload, but all three of them uploaded it. You can find it on any of their channels, which we'd probably link if we were proper. But we're just at work, you and I, doing this channel stuff. We just have
maybe we'll link all three after.
Yeah, we can. That's important, but
yeah, in the description. Anyway,
so there's some parts I think are like especially stand out. And so I wanted to show you the highlights, and I figured we might as well show everybody else while I was showing you. So if it's cool with you, I'd like to run one of those now to start with.
Yeah, I'm always happy to help out Pageau or VanderKlay. And Vervaeke, if you're watching this, we'll help you out too. You just got to come on the channel.
All right, here we go. This clip I called "The Biggest Mystery of Christ." I think it's one of Pageau's standout moments.
This is the biggest mystery of all. And this is the biggest mystery of Christ, is that what Christ is showing us is that ultimately, and this is the very disturbing thing that I'm going to say, but ultimately, what's up here and what's down here, they're the same. You have to, you can reach a point where the cross is at the top of the mountain, which is like, it blows your mind, because it's actually saying that the non-duality encompasses both the breakdown of meaning and the transcendence of meaning. Yeah. And it's something that it's hard. It's like I said, it's hard to deal with because it just breaks everything in your mind. But that's, to me, that's how I see the importance of narrative, the manner in which it's transcended, the manner in which it brings us into death, and then ultimately how I think the story itself is transcended in a way that's hard to fathom in the story of the crucifixion.
So
yeah, that's why we love Pageau. That's absolutely right. Of course.
Gloff has joined us, as well as Undertone Man 794.
Welcome, Gloff and Undertone Man.
Let's see. Here's another one of his I thought was a highlight.
It'll
Cut and paste and
Although, to maybe just elaborate on what
yeah,
I get from what he just said there for a minute while you gather the next one.
please.
And then sometimes people think that like the getting to the top of the hill means you get up to like just heaven. And like that somehow heaven is separate from hell. But at the Godhead, everything transcends and comes together. It's not that in heaven you forget all the pain or the pain in existence is gone. It's that it's transcended. And God's being stretches from heaven to hell and everywhere in between. There's nothing outside of God. And we tend to forget that and to separate hell from God or ourselves from God. But all the muck and fucking pain and disaster and tragedy is a part of the Godhead as well.
Well, if that's how you're gonna respond to Pageau, instead of getting another clip from him, here's one that I time-stamped as Vervaeke about Grimgriz. So,
and one of the things
it's gonna be special. Hold on. That's not right. It's playing this one. Okay, we're playing this one.
the image of the
I have no
last
idea what
age
you're playing.
in scripture, the final image is the city. It's
I don't
not.
see
I
or
always
hear
tell you. I
anything.
always remind people it's not the garden anymore, or the garden is surrounded by the
Okay,
city.
that's right.
And the
All right,
city
hold on.
is exactly
This is
that
why.
image of a technical understanding or technical.
All right, you look pretty. Hi, everybody. The thing about being professionals is to not crack under the pressure of screwing up until it becomes a snowball of screw up after screw up after screw up.
and one of the
There
things
it
that you
is.
immediately
Okay. And now I share
Same
with
way
you
that the
first.
robber already contains the Brahmin, our screw up already contains doing it properly in the future. All right, now I see something.
Of course, I come from it less in terms of the scientific sense. I see it more within the human horizon, let's say, and so I tend to use my analogies tend to be more related to
I don't know why.
notions of
but it
emergence
looks
in
like it's
terms
gonna
of
work,
the
and then it
person
plays something
and
else.
how we are constituted, how we're constituted
Here's
of
what I want
many
to
parts,
play.
and how
and because well and it's loving a person, and one of the things that you immediately get into when you start trying to love a person is all of the deconstructed grime of that person, where they've taken on all these bad habits, and they have all this crappy thinking and all of this self-deception. And so even in that journey, which Jesus basically boils down to, okay, well, let's, I'm going to make it real simple and scalable for all of you. I want you to love your neighbor. And that's in a sense where your journey begins. And I think even in the sense of beginning that journey, anyone who loves their neighbor imaginatively engages a narrative that says, I imagine for my neighbor a blessedness that at this point they can neither comprehend nor attain. And so my love in itself it won't guarantee, but it will be an affordance and a pathway up the mountain with them.
Boom. So I thought,
Beautifully said.
yeah, I thought he did that was great. And then I figure I'll play if I can do it right. Vervaeke, because it seemed like, you know, he was outnumbered as far as believers in him in this situation. But there was this one moment where he goes, "Okay, I'll play." I called it "Let's play Bucko" because, you know,
No. Well, I'm gonna play.
and it is something I'm sharing with you now.
Oh, sorry, Jonathan.
Sorry.
No. Well, I'm gonna play with this a little bit.
Go
as
for
a
it.
cognitive scientist, because the phenomena that you talked about, I mean, that's very much the phenomena of reconstructive memory, right? So a good metaphor of this is our memories are not like computer files. Our memory is like a compost. Whatever is most recent is fairly accurate, but as you go backwards in time, things get meshed and confused together. And that's what all the memory research since about 1980, Elizabeth Loftus on, and that's why it's easy to implant false memories in people. You get people right now, get them in a room, get them to imagine doing something, come back to them 6 months and ask them if they did it or not, and they're likely to say that they did it, even though they imagined doing it. And the examples of these are replete. This is one of the problems with sort of the idea that our self is a stable entity, because that story is rewriting itself, but part of that rewriting is undermining. And so we do this all the time. And one of the concerns of the postmodernists, you guys are putting me in the weird position of defending. I think there's value in postmodernism. I think
there's value in
I do
postmodernism
too.
Okay, good. Okay, great. Because that's one of the places where Jordan Peterson and I butt heads, I think, in a very
I told Jordan in the conversation with him that I think he doesn't understand Jacques Derrida. He doesn't understand.
Yeah. And there's deep connections between Derrida and negative theology. There's a wonderful work on that. The influence of Derrida on Caputo and Mark Taylor, who are amazing theologians. I mean, that's just there. Or Foucault's deep reflections on.
It derailed a little bit, and I let it go too long. I didn't. The point was, the disillusion that's built into the narrative, I think, and there's a sampling of it, and why I think it's worth everybody's time.
That does look like a podcast worth listening to in its entirety.
Gloff says it's been a morning for sure. And Undertone Man said that was great, what you just said about screwing up.
Oh fuck, I don't remember what I said.
Me either. But
not my job to remember what I said. I just have to say it.
It was to cover my screw ups, which is important.
Yeah, but if you weren't here screwing things up, nothing would be happening at all. So
sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that's okay. I got spun out about this whole thing. How like when I time stamped it, it's like you watch like the backs and forths of the conversation, like the way we used to have to diagram sentences almost. It's like you see like the dance of the conversation as it happens, and how this move is a step to the left and this move is a step that way, and that's a that's a pirouette. And this whole thing about they go into one of the big points they get to is the narrative. It includes the meta narrative includes like the dissolution of previous narratives, and then that to me is people are starting to talk about me more stuff, and I get really excited.
But I think even though the meta like dissolves the subjective narrative, it contains it still as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's still there, and it's still I don't have the words to put this in the right place, but there's aspects of ourselves that even though we're to overcome them and transcend them, they don't go away. Yeah, like Pageau was saying, the cross ends up at the top of the hill in a fucked up way that is hard to explain.
Especially when you're underneath the hill. But wow.
Wait, can I see chat myself if I go over to this? Okay, chat's still
You're
quiet.
missing the, well, I'm not on live chat. Now I am.
All right, if anyone has anything to say, related or unrelated,
That would
check.
be a great time. We can just be entertaining. I think it's amazing.
Well, what's your interest in for someone coming across this who doesn't know you as well as I do? What's your interest in the meme war? Why do you give a fuck about any of this? Why not just play video games and do cocaine all day?
Oh, because that's why not? You know, you're right, man. You know, I hadn't considered that, Mercury, and now that you bring it to my attention, that's probably what I should be doing with my time.
Okay, regardless of what you say you believe, we're going to judge you on your actions. You would have been free over the past year and a half to play video games and do cocaine all day, but based on your actions, you somehow believed it was worthwhile to get involved with sorting myself out, to get to know people like Pageau and VanderKlay, to begin to observe and dissect the meme war as part of something going on globally. And rather than saying fuck all that nonsense and amusing yourself with various forms of oblivion, you've gotten involved to the degree where you even have to do this shit when you don't want to. It's not like you're just stuck participating when it feels good. You've gotten so involved that even when you're having a hard day and you're in a bad mood, you fucking pull yourself together to do shit for this. You're putting yourself out. Why the fuck get involved? And why listen to these three eggheads talk about God and the meaning of life?
Well, you see, I've integrated my personal identity into a narrative that empowers me by imbuing the fire of meaning into the most trivial of activities because they're part of the larger story.
And you, a few years, how far back would we have to go to where you wouldn't believe that you're doing what you're doing now?
There was I don't know. I don't think I accepted the depths to which I would sink until I was around 24. So let's call it 27 just to be sure, and we'll say I'm almost 21. Almost 21 years of this is like when I was no longer surprised what twists and turns my life may take.
And so, through the shit you've been through and where you've traveled since then, for someone who has no idea what you meant by the meme war, what's going on in the world in the meme war? And like, tie it into fucking our other friend, Dr. Greg Henriquez. Like, he sees an entire new dimension of reality emerging, that new circle starting. And a part of that is this meme war you speak of. So what's going on in the world for someone who's never thought about it this way? For someone who's up till now just been living life like, of course, this is what life is, and this is normal human activity. Because it's not normal human activity. But if you're born into it, it might seem so. What's your, and why the fuck did we put this thumbnail? about Cerebro and mutants.
Ah,
Tie it into that.
all of that. All right. Well, let's start with our friend Greg and the Emergent Dimension. There's a Dungeons and Dragons spell called Rope Trick, where you cast the spell, and then the rope extends vertically into the air, and you and your party members can all climb up the rope and into a little pocket dimension, basically a treehouse, and then pull the rope up behind you. And to the extent that we can crawl into our devices up that, like that rope is when we sit in front of the screen, is us climbing the rope, and then we crawl into this internet universe. And now, instead of it just being a treehouse, we're all connected when we're in our treehouses. Um, and so that the layer, the you're in the treehouse layer, I think, is the emergent dimension to the extent that I see one. Um, and that's where the meme war is taking place, because you crawl up in the treehouse, and what happens to your mind when you're in the treehouse, you take back with you when you crawl down, and that's like whether or not you know what frazzle drip is can change while you're in the treehouse, and that can do fascinating things to your perspective when you come back down and uh, go to McDonald's. So that's the meme war. It's happening like in this treehouse layer. Um, while we're staring in the black screens, there's a war for your mind, for what you believe. I mean, it's obvious for what you spend your money on, what you support financially, but like what you give your energy to. Um, be around a 5-year-old that's being neglected in favor of a phone for about 20 minutes, and then you'll see how much attention is actually worth. And that's the war. That's what's being fought for in the meme war, is human minds.
I want to build on that for a second before, and then we'll wrap it around to Cerebro if we remember. Yeah, in the modern world, we often look at the internet activity from the financial perspective. Like, this is being done for money, this is being done for ads. And even the way we direct the algorithms, from what I understand, is all profit driven. But money is not fucking anything. In fact, once you turn gold to money, it's actually a reduction of resources. Gold is gold, can be jewelry, can be wiring, can be, something functional. Gold is money, gets locked away in a vault. And that's the power of the real currency, our fucking minds. Money is made by our minds. And it's so powerful an illusion that we can get pulled into thinking money is the currency that we have access to during this life. But it's not. Money's an illusion made up by the real currency we have. It's our minds, it's time and attention. Every single one of us coming here, it's like a little kid going into a fair or an arcade, and they have a certain number of tokens. We think of the tokens as like the money. Like, the reality is, when we come into this arcade of Earth, you're given from your heavenly Father 2 currencies that you spend simultaneously: time and attention. You have so much time to spend so much attention on something. And you're right, Grizz, you can see it with a child what attention means. In fact, when we didn't realize newborn baby or babies in orphanages needed attention, there's a really high mortality rate. At a certain point, like in the 1800s or something, some brilliant fucking nurse or something realized that a baby needs to be held and paid attention to. And they were able to just make the infant mortality a fraction of the rate by just carrying every baby around for an hour while they did their work. We die without attention, and it goes everywhere. Scientists find that if you look close enough, attention collapses a probability wave into either a particle or a wave. It seems paying attention to plants makes them grow better. Or just look at what do you want from the world? Why does everyone, I guess, maybe except for the odd person like me, but the majority of people you watch on YouTube, all of that activity is driven by the desire for attention. It's what we pay attention to grows. And from my perspective, the thought realm and such is an actual place, like made up of thoughts and emotions, that thoughts are something real. Like whether it's like the Platonic forms, Rupert Sheldrake's morphic resonance, or like the idea of the collective unconscious, and this new emergent layer of reality where we've created magic spells out of symbols, ones and zeros, and we run fucking Zeus's lightning bolt through them to generate this new digital dimension. To a certain degree, this is a manifestation of the collective unconscious or whatever. Like it seems to me that the thought, the realm fantastica or fantasia is, we're mirroring that below here. This is the realm made up of our thoughts. And what you believe and what you think alters your reality. Like what changed us from all the other animals into what we are now is when culture started. And culture started with like cult, with like the shamans. It's as soon as we realized we could program our brain with images, that we could communicate through language, that we could build our own world inside of reality, that we could function in. It changed absolutely everything. And even if you don't change a thing about how you go through your life day to day, you can experience it entirely differently if your inner world is different. Like before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Life wouldn't even have to be different externally for you to experience it differently. And like Alan Moore likes to point out, the magic of the shamans that could use art and collective experience to alter society, to change the world, is mostly being wielded by corporations and advertisers right now. And it's not being done for the sake of empowering people. It's being done for the sake of feeding off of us and turning us into those fucking matrix batteries.
There's a part where you said if you pay attention to it, it grows, or if you feed it attention, it grows. Um, it's interesting because I'm cutting back through Jordan Peterson's mom to find the good stuff, and the one of the parts I was recently looking at again was how like if you don't pay attention to something, it grows. So I wanted to make the distinction of like what you pay attention to thrives, maybe, is better than grows, because like the things you don't pay attention to also grow, and that's
Okay. Well, yeah, excellent point. No, maybe deeper. What you pay attention, where you pay attention, the good flows. So if you pay attention to something that wants to grow, the good will feed that. If you pay attention to something that wants to attack life, the good that you can flow through will. Okay. What he's talking about growing there, that dark shit, in a way, that's the opposite of growth, though. That's like the nothing spreading. Like what I mean?
That's true.
So if the nothing is spreading, is that really growing or is it erasing?
Well,
Is it really,
the size of the
growing?
problem is growing.
Yeah, but in a way, you can look at that as a reduction in reality.
Or the damage
Because
of neglect is growing. I didn't mean to sidetrack it. I just wanted to.
No, that was an
It's more
interesting
than just growth, but attention is like the most powerful thing we have, the most valuable thing we have. And I have my my Brave browser link ready because it's a referral program, and they're using the basic attention token, and I can't talk attention now and monetizing without thinking of how many crypto points I get for those referrals, man. But currency wise, it's no, that's too much for right now. Sorry. I back out. Do you want to spin it towards Cerebro?
Yeah.
It's
So
go ahead.
some people seem to be able to operate in this system not too bad. We'll call those like the humans, and the freaks like you and I are the metaphor for the mutants, the people who do not fit in. And especially for me, like being bipolar, framing it rather than a mental illness as a mutation. And like the X-Men, most of their mutations in the X-Men were something that was dangerous to themselves or others, if not properly harnessed. With the proper training, though, it becomes a gift. I think a very nice metaphor for the way if you're insane and it's completely untrained, it causes disaster to yourself or others. Or, even in the comics, mutants would accidentally kill themselves the first time they turned on their fire ability or something. And like, it's no joke how deadly it is to have one of these dangerous gifts. A lot of us kill ourselves and a lot of us do a lot of damage to the world. But if you can go through the shamanic journey, which is similar to getting pulled into Xavier's school for gifted youngsters, you can become something that, like Pageau says, the monsters are there to protect us from bigger monsters. So when you integrate yourself and manage some sort of individuation or spiritual awakening or whatever framework you take, not only can you not only can you improve your experience of the world, but you can end up like the X-Men in a position where you can protect those normal people that fit into the world from much worse shit. And you can be both a gargoyle to keep away great evil, and a bridge.
I'd like to spin it to Cerebro.
Mhm.
The algorithm and the stuff that's happening on this treehouse layer is functioning that way, and that it's allowing the mutants to find each other and
Oh, and
coalesce.
for anyone who's not a nerd and doesn't even know what we're talking about, we didn't say what Cerebro was. So in the comics, and the movies as well, Professor Xavier is a psychic, and he's a very powerful psychic, but on his own, he's got a limited range, like by his location, which is very much like humans are. You have a limited range of influence. Like, we can speak, so we can affect each other. It's basically telepathic communication, just done with sound waves. And we can only do it locally. Someone has to be able to hear you. In the comic, though, if he puts on Cerebro's this room, this giant machine they built that enhances his ability so he can reach people all over the entire world. And so Grizz's reference there is that, on our own, we can affect the people in our local environment. We can affect their minds. But when you plug yourself into a YouTube channel, it amplifies the signal and allows you to reach people all over the world. And so now we've got this fucking tool, which, like Dowbeard, whatever his name is, Daniel something, was saying on Rebel Wisdom repeatedly, we now have the power of gods. We're at the point where it is ridiculous what we can do for a bunch of fucking mostly bald apes. And so far, we've kind of been playing video games and doing cocaine with a lot of this digital dimension.
Yeah, well, it's interesting and disturbing, but like the seediest will be the first to find ways to do things you're not supposed to. So all sorts of innovation is going to come from the reckless pursuit of vices and the trade profiting, etc. thereof.
And with that, with those algorithms being aware that you get quicker responses from anger and outrage, mixed with the anonymity available online and the fact that society is more and more asking us to not be human. You know, the worst thing about being a human is people expecting you to behave as if you aren't. People are living these meaningless lives and then given the chance to be able to comment on things. So mixed in with what you said about how the top layer is corrupting us, there's also just the layer of fighting with each other, trolling each other, and all of that bullshit that flowered early online, but something different's emerging recently.
Yeah, well, the something about fertilizer, right? Hey, the that distracted me. What's
We said we would check chat when it was empty, then we started talking and ignored it. Sorry, folks, we will get to that.
I can do.
Huh. Pat's there. Hey, Pat.
While you brought it up, this is from Two More V's, our good friend. While you brought it up, is there any justification for taking cocaine? Because it seems to simply trigger the success receptors in your brain, and the feeling you get is something you should also get from doing something really good and successful and important. So anytime you take coke, you're not doing what would really justify the good feeling you get from it. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed cocaine too, but I feel like it's nothing more than a shortcut.
Well, see, me talking about Coke is a difficult analogy because I never liked cocaine. Like, I just honestly don't like Coke. But from the perspective of somebody that does, like, you could frame it that you're taking, you know, you're gaining a reward without having earned it. But you said, you know, is there ever a justification? I don't know if cocaine in smaller amounts isn't, you know, a decent upper. I don't know if there's some people that can't use like that aren't unbalanced in such a way that cocaine's beneficial. Like, I've known plenty of people with functional drug habits. So I don't know if there's ever a time where cocaine can be like a positive in your life. Possibly, like if we're talking about exceptions, it seems to me overall Coke's a drug that can fuck you up pretty good. But I find with drugs, it's the dividing line isn't like which drugs are good or bad. It's which drugs are good or bad per person. It seems to me that the difference is, are you taking the drug to like explore yourself or to enhance yourself? Like for me, marijuana helps me engage with life. It's not running away from life. I don't get high and avoid my problems. So it's like if you're using drugs to explore and improve yourself and interact with the world, even if you know you're taking mushrooms to interact with other aspects of reality, if it's for the sake of life is good and you're self-exploring and creating with it, then to me that's good. But if the drugs are to run away, if it's for oblivion, if it's to escape, if it's to get away from parts of yourself or to get away from reality, then I find it dangerous. Does that make sense, Grizz?
Yes, but I mean, the question was, is there any justification for taking coke? And there's all sorts of justifications for taking coke. Like, how
Mm-hmm.
can you ever really understand like snorting coke off a hooker's blow without doing coke? No. You have to actually snort coke off a hooker's ass to know what that's like. And so there's the I want to know that the desire for that knowledge is sufficient justification. Um,
And I think there the connection you made is part of the reason I was using that drug as the example, is just because culturally through media, we've strongly connected cocaine with snorting it off fucking hookers and people like shooting places up and like with really, really bad behavior. But the ever justifiable to me, any drug where you don't cause harm to others, you can justify doing. So I have no problem with cocaine in theory if it's actually good for a person. We all react to drugs differently, and we all have different inadequacies.
I mean, Freud was apparently a big fan, and he did lots of good things, I hear. But it's,
I mean, I drink coffee all day. It's just a different upper. Now, cocaine doesn't suit me. And so I was using coke to mean a drug that is bad for you.
well, I was
I
thinking,
wasn't really judgmental of coke. And I'm not judgmental of uppers if they're good for you. Like, we all react to drugs differently, and we all need different compensations. We all have different damages. There's nothing wrong with healing a wound with drugs, as long as you're not like ignoring the wound and letting it fester. If you're not running away from the wound, pretending it's not there with drugs, but if you need drugs to assist yourself, or if drugs assist your creativity, productivity, if drugs just fucking lubricate your ability to be in this world. Like, because for me, that's what like medical smoke does. Or cigarettes as well. Like, they're a constant, they interact neurologically. People with schizophrenia or my type of bipolar are often chain smokers. Other people, like, for them, smoking cigarettes is unjustifiable. It's bad to your health. You know, they don't need to the way I do, but my body reacts to it well. And it balances my fucking brain. So if I can justify smoking cigarettes, which I don't give a fuck if other people think it's justifiable to me, and I'm self-sovereign. I can imagine plenty of self-sovereign individuals who would be able to justify using cocaine, assuming they're using it responsibly. You know, they live up to their own moral code. It doesn't corrupt them. And where they're actually being in life what they think they are. So it's one thing for a drug addict to say, I'm a great help, this whole neighborhood loves me, when everyone you know is constantly talking about what a dick they are. It's another for an addict to say, like, yeah, I'm an addict, but I try to help whenever I can. And, you know, everyone around them says, yeah, they're a nice fucking stoner. Helps me out all the time. It's like, if your view of yourself matches the reality of it, then do whatever fucking drug you want to do that's actually good for you. I don't give a shit if it's not good for me.
you tapped into something really important, I think, there. And I think, I say it's important as, like, we should totally rebrand the Enlightenment as self-sovereignty. But the angle of self-sovereignty, I think, is terribly um, underesteemed. Like, it's not even something people talk about, sovereignty. So
That was partly what my Dr. Seuss poem was about. Did you pick that up from that?
no.
Okay, so let's see if I remember it. Dominion, or Dr. Seuss's Divine Comedy. This is my hell. It's mine. It's not yours. You don't get to explore it. You can't map its shores. Here is my torture. My pain shaped the terrain. You don't get to reframe it. You can't warp its plane. These are my demons. I know them by name. You don't get to define them. You can't shift the blame. This is my heaven. Holy fire sings God's name. You don't get to hear it. You can't see the flame. Here's my salvation. I earned it below. You don't get to deny it. You can't dim its glow. This is my being, from its heights to down low. You don't get to judge me. You can't know what I know. Here's my understanding. It's wrong, but it's mine. You don't get to correct it. You can't rule my mind. These are my words, and these you can have, but you won't understand them. unless you go mad. I think that combines self-sovereignty also with what Pageau was saying. You don't deny the hell. This is my fucking hell, and this is my fucking heaven, and this is my fucking experience.
Well, that's also your stream, so we can close on that if you'd like.
Sure, we have to get to work anyway. We should check with the art department, right?
Yeah, that the bumpers should be up soon.
Oh wait, let's not talk too much and get people's hopes up in case we crap out.
Well, there's chat you haven't addressed.
Oh shit, yeah, we said we were going to address the chat. What else is in there? Because all that rambling was us responding to one fucking thing. So thank you for being here, everyone.
Always.
Okay, so Pat pointed out how fortunate we are to not have to forage food all day, but instead meet on the internet and discuss the meaning or meaninglessness of life. Yeah, even aside from our ability to go online and how that enhances everything, just the fact that we can sit around and talk for hours or can play video games for hours instead of constantly be searching for food or clean water is something we take for granted pretty easily.
Well, even if we were constantly searching for food and water, it'd still just be a matter of perspective. I mean, that sounds like a pleasant change of pace from the existence we have these days. I don't know that it's in the experience for more than 6 months that I start to have a problem with, but foraging could be fun.
Okay, so Undertone Man said, I already was addicted to video games. Now it's coffee. This is just my break from coffee. Nah, I actually get a bunch out of this. Thanks for your time. Thank you for showing up. And you're very welcome. And Undertone Man says attention is God. Apparently something was beautifully said. Hi, Adela. Great to see you. Hope you're having a great day. And George Chipper says, I'm schizophrenic. Well, welcome. I'm bipolar. Great to have another member of the Mad Tribe with us.
I skillfully avoid being diagnosed.
Lots of lunatic love to you. Hope to see you around more. 2 more V's like the poem. Oh, people go subscribe to 2 more V's channel. He does awesome fucking music with Peterson and Jonathan Pageau and stuff like that. George said, great channel, great people.
Aw.
Yeah, I'll just say thank you.
I hope he's talking about us. I mean, he could have been talking about 2 more V's, and that'd be true too.
Could have been.
But
Yeah.
we'll take it. I'll take that. Thank you, George. I will be a great person now because it has been projected upon me, and I love to fulfill expectations.
Okay, finally. Thank you for being here, George. You got him to accept being great. I've been trying to get him to accept that for a while. So we can all look forward to the great Grizz stepping up his game now. There. And we'll end on that note before you can undercut it. How's that sound?